Hey, welcome to Cardboard Meditation. I'm the big guy, and today finally got here. It is the All-Star game this evening. I hope you'll watch it. Those are always a lot of fun. They're not nearly as competitive as we'd like them to be, but they're still fun. You get to see all your best favorite players in those silly little pajama type, uniforms. I'm not sure about those. I always thought it was cooler when they wore their own uniforms. It's not like they'd be able to mix anybody up like in basketball or hockey, but hey, it is what it is, as the big boys always say. And look, I tell you what, I'm ready to watch. Are you ready? Got my popcorn, got my peanuts, got my Cracker Jack. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. How about you? All right, stick around. I've got something really cool to show you from the middle 80s.
Hey, baseball fan. Time for a little self-care and a few minutes of cardboard meditation. Welcome to the show that features some of baseball's oddest stories and the cardboard slabs that document them. Find peace and joy through baseball cards with your host, the big guy.
I love Cracker Jack. I opened this right now to sample it before the game tonight. Oh. Is this what they're putting in these days? I'm just messing with you. I put that in there. You know you're about ready to go out and buy all the Cracker Jack in all the stores that you have. Anyway, thanks for tuning me in on this wonderful night, because this is the All-Star game. All-Star game night. And, a lot of the festivities kind of already done. Like the 2024 Futures game, that's over with. And I don't know if you saw that, but Cincinnati's Cam Collier and Atlanta's Drake Baldwin, I think is his name. They each hit 400-foot solo home runs. National League beat the American League 6-1. 400 feet. These guys are kids. That's what you've got to look forward to over the next couple of years. Of course, the big draft happened. It actually went into the next day. I was kind of surprised at that. My Detroit Tigers picked up a high school prep guy, Bryce. Why can't I think of Bryce's name? Bryce Rayner. Picked up Bryce Rayner, shortstop. I'm not sure about that. There were a lot of college kids that were up, and we picked a high schooler. They always seem to take a little longer to cultivate. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a YouTuber. Anyway, what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you some things that we had in the 80s, not necessarily to celebrate the All-Star game, but they were printed in sort of a commemoration of the All-Star game, and you had to send in for them. They were mail-away premiums. Got a couple of them here. Here's a set from 83. Here's a set from 87. I chose this one for a reason, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Now, let me thumb through these real quick so you can see what we're talking about here. And earlier this week, I said that the borders were kind of I think I called it almost full bleed. Well, you can't have an almost full bleed. It either is full bleed or it isn't. And full bleed just means that the actual photograph goes right to the end. There is no border. So this card, as you can see, does have a border, and they all have borders. And they'll have colored borders. You can see this one is yellow. That'll be important in a little while as well. But let's take a look at some of these cards. As you can see, Yastrzemski. Hang on just a second here. Let me show you a couple other ones. Look at this one. They have a very glossy finish. These were great for getting autographs. Look at them. I don't remember ever seeing it in the 80s now. I'm not talking about now, but in the 80s, there wasn't a whole lot like these, with these really beautiful, almost all pictured cards. You can see down here at the very bottom, it's got his name. But you can see that there's not a whole lot of distraction here. No filigree, no putting up their stats, no putting up their position or team, or not a lot of flourishes and all that. Just a beautiful Topps photograph, and they've got a lot of them, and I think that led to them creating these beautiful cards. And they just decided to go ahead and use some of the photos that you might look at these and go, I've seen that before. Well, they were part of another photograph that was taken that was probably used in a card, because I felt that a lot of these looked very, very similar. Let me show you a couple more. Well, this one I want to show you, as you can tell all around the lower section of this one, there's some what looks like little white spots. Well, the clear coating they put on these kind of pitted And that just meant, it was kind of, like you see here, pitted and scarred. Not all cards were like that, but some of them were. But that's okay, because in the 80s, this was still a premium thing. The 1989 Upper Decks hadn't come out yet. This was 1983. But these are really quite beautiful. Take a look at Buddy Bell. Look at this card. It's pure. It is a pure card. There were a couple other ones like this that just, not in action shots, but, kind of posed sort of, hey, I'm doing something special here. Watch me. It's Toby Harrah. Played for Cleveland. I just love that card. Here's Pete Rose, still at that time sporting that Mo Howard Three Stooges haircut. Still pretty cool, isn't it? Here he is, Mr. Handsome, Jim Palmer. Look at this Gary Carter card. Is that not the coolest? He just special looking. This was a card that I really enjoyed. When I talked about earlier about how they might have used from the photo session they were taking at that point, they were showing that these cards are part of some of the card photos that they used during the regular season. If you'll notice this one on Lance Parrish, in the back it says Cochran ball field or baseball field. That was down in Florida during spring training. And the reason that I can tell that this is from the card is in 1985, I believe, he has a special card where he's standing in front of the backstop, and that sign you can see behind him is also in that sign. So that came from the same photo shoot from like about 85. Here's everybody's favorite chase card out of there anyway, Nolan Ryan for the Astros. Now remember, these are from 1983. Here's a really cool Eddie Murray. Eddie Murray, every time I see him, I go, that guy means business. He was a Hall of Famer from the day he stepped on the field. That's the 83. Now let me crack open this 87 set real quick and show you something really unique. It's not unique. It's pretty cool. Oh, and by the way, that set was a 40 card set. Shortly after that, Topps started making these things 60 cards. They had so many great photographs, they just had to get them out. Had to show them off. All right, Don Mattingly, #1 card. That's classic, isn't it? Look at that, and it's all picture. It's just amazing. Let me thumb through these real quick. Here's a card that I became very infatuated with, being a Tiger fan. This is a card I don't see very often in the wild. Even around these parts in Michigan, when you go to card shows, you see a lot of Trammell and Whitaker things, but you never see this card. Is that not cool? All right, taking a look at some more of these. Here's a really cool card. This one is very similar to other cards of his during the era. And this looks like the actual follow-through with the actual hitting as the ball's passing through the strike zone. That's what they use for the card. This is Dave Parker's 87 Topps All-Star Edition. This is part of the sendaways. I'll get to the sendaways in a minute. I just wanted to show you the cards first. This one's always cool too. This one looked so familiar to me growing up, looking at these things. That pose is just classic. He hit with that wide open stance all the time. And I was looking for this, like, okay, what card is that from? Well, no Yankee cards are like that, but there is an Oakland card just like this. So this pose, although it's not a pose, his batting stance was used in several cards. Still thumbing through here because I want to find the card that makes this set special. And here it is. Now remember, this is a 1987 set. That is in effect a Barry Bonds rookie card from 1987. It's a part of the collector's edition set that Topps put out for the 1987 All-Star. It was not, they weren't All-Stars, at that point, but is that not the coolest thing? I have seen this card in the wild, and a lot of times you see this autograph because it makes for a great autograph. Beautiful set. Okay, I'm going to thumb through here real quick here. And I always like this card because I could always tell any picture taken at Comiskey Park always had those windows in the back that were kind of half rounded on the top. It just looks so old school with those beautiful old ballparks. That's George Bell for the Blue Jays. Now you're saying, I can't read the bottoms of the card to see who they are. That's okay. That's okay. Because these cards are just meant to be savored. That's what I say. Here's the Doc. That card, you'll notice, has been used as a model for a painting somebody, I forget who it was, that had in a set somewhere that this card was from that painting. This is what they used as a model. And of course, another 1987er, Jose Canseco. Beautiful card, isn't it? You've seen that picture before. I know you have. It's in something. It's very similar to something you've seen. And that's what Topps did. They just made these really, really cool cards. Now, as you'll notice, these they're so close to looking the same. How do you tell the 83s from the 87s? Simple. Simple. Says right on the back. So you'll never be confused unless you don't look at the back as to what card goes where. Now, they did this from 1983 to 1990. As near as I can figure, I have not ever seen I've never seen another set after 1990. But they did use these designs in other places. And I'm going to show you one. I'm trying to figure out what year this is from, and I don't really recall. 1985. This is from a 1985 set that's called Circle K, Home Run Kings. Starting right off, that is so cool. That is Lee May for the Cincinnati Reds, and this card set is just amazing. Look at the Hank Aaron card. Is that not beautiful? We got Salt and Swat right there. And the cards are in order for the most part, I think. Yes, in order of who has the most home runs. So who's next? That's right. So I'm going to just thumb through here real quick because these cards, I'm not going to sit there and tell you that you got to go out and buy cards for your collection. But if you want to do something cheap and you want something really beautiful, the Circle K box set, you can't go wrong. Out of all the box sets from the 80s, when a lot of them are really trashy, that is something worth having in your collection. Because that's got that card in there. The beautiful Mickey Mantle card. Beautiful Jimmy Fox card. It's even got a really cool old black and white Ted Williams. There's a couple other cards in here too that I have a personal interest in. I'm going to see if I can get to them real quick. And most of them are colored cards. They're not all black and whites. Let's see, where is it? Oh, I wanted to show you this one too. Mike Schmidt. Look at that. If you're a Phillies fan, it's a cheap set to buy to just get that Schmidt card in your collection. Here it is. That's my favorite one out of the set. Yep. I told you I'm a Detroit homer. But there's another one that I like even more than that. And look at this one, though. Frank Howard. That's a beautiful card. The other one I really like the most, this is the card that sold me on the set. Norm Cash. That is a beautiful card. And look at it. It's pure card. There's just a little tiny border on there. And then Rocky Colavito. Seriously? K-Line, Cash, and Colavito all in the same set? I should have bought 100 of these things. Okay, let's see if we just got one more here that's kind of unique. I always like the Big Red Machine. So there's Tony Perez. That is where you've seen that design. See, it's very similar. In fact, it is exactly the same. It's just a different color. But there were some reddish colored borders used later on. So you could confuse them with those cards unless you flip them over. And now you see there's actually stats on the back. These other cards from the World Series Sundays, there are no stats on the back. Okay, they also did something very similar where they use these kind of photographs in these year-specific All-Star cards. They had the National and the American League. This is from the Hum Baby years with Whitey Herzog and the St. Louis Cardinals. And I'll pop this one open, but they did this for several years, and you usually got these in rack packs. You'd get one per rack pack. And they were pretty cool. There's a lot of just in-action shots, as I'm showing here, but there's a couple really neat ones. Tony Gwynn. And, oh, there it is. Dwight Gooden. It's pretty cool. But then there were some other ones that I thought were just a little bit cooler than the rest. There's a nice close-up of Fernando Valenzuela. Look at this Wally Joyner. He is ready for business. Here is Lou Whitaker's 1986 card. The only reason I pulled this out is I believe this is the year that Lou went to the All-Star game and somebody stole his uniform. So he didn't have a uniform for the game, so they had to go out and buy one of those things off the rack, at some sporting goods store. And then they drew on his number 1 on the back of his jersey with a Sharpie. And that's how he played. It's very funny. Look at this one. You're a Cal Ripken collector? That needs to be in your set. And again, these cards were produced every year, almost from like about 1984, I believe, into like 90 or 91. I'm not exactly sure on that. But again, they were in one in every rack pack. And then this is probably the coolest one in here. Now remember, these are 1986. That's Roger Clemens. He's just a little puppy in this. He was probably walking into the stadium, and somebody goes, "Hey, Roger, can you pose for me?" And he's got his uniform on. He's all proud of himself. And again, this photo was probably taken in 1985 because the All-Star game, from the year before. And it could even be a photograph from 1984 at spring training where he just had his uniform. And he's not really on the team yet. I don't know. Have no clue, but I can tell you that is one of the nicest Roger Clemens cards I've ever seen. Okay, let's take a look at these cards as the years on them so I can show you exactly what we've got, okay? As you can see here, the first offering from 1983 has that yellow border, and we looked at that. I showed you that. 84 has a red border. 85, a blue border. 86, a green border. 87, an orange border. 88 was red, but they changed it ever so slightly to give it a pinkish color. And the same with 89. It was kind of yellow, but maybe a little more pale than the ones previous. Just so you can kind of tell them apart upon looking at it. But the 1990s red, plain old red. And like I said, you can tell them apart from just looking at the back of them. So how did you get these cards back in the day? Well, you sent in for them. They're sendaways. You'd find these little cards that are inside the pack, and you could fill them out and send them in. One year, I think that's how you did it. And then you could see here you could scratch off and win somehow and play in this game. There's also ones where you can just collect enough of these cards and send them in. You get a set of the cards. There's like 5 different presets inside the set, so you'd have to send them in 3 or 4 times a year to get the full set. But it was worth it, as you could see. Thanks for joining me for all week long on this whole All-Star Game journey. It was a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Got my Cracker Jacks. All right. I am as happy as a clam. And I am so happy. I want to share that with you. But you know what? You got to bring that to your life. You got to bring that happiness to your life. So bring it. Bring it with baseball cards. Talk soon.
Cardboard Meditation helps set your mind right. Thank you for watching. Show us your appreciation by clicking the like and subscribe button. Ring the bell while you're at it so you'll know when we upload a new story.